Hello, it's me, uh, Victor. Let me just figure out my screen sharing real quick. Hopefully that's working. So the screen right now just shows a really crudely drawn image of me, a person with like wavy black hair that's shoulder length. They're wearing a red shirt and waving, just sort of saying hi. Um, I clicked to go on to the next slide, and now what we see is the cover of the comic I'm going to be reading today, which is an issue of Ley Lines called Cabra Cabra by Victor Martins. So the cover has the name of the series, Ley Lines, and the name of this issue, Cabra Cabra. There's a big painting with an ornate frame of a person in Elizabethan clothes. So they're wearing the big fluffy collar and a doublet. There's a goat and some painting supplies on a ladder, and the goat is painting a big goat's face over the face of the human person in the painting. The book was printed in just one color, dark blue, so everything's in different shades of blue, except for the things that are white, which are just like the color of the paper showing through, where there's no ink. Um, and this was a comic I did for Ley Lines, which is a series exploring the intersections of high art and comics. It's like really highbrow stuff. And I really like the series and I really wanted to do something, but I was like, high art, who? Um, so I remembered that when I was younger, there was this book that I really, really enjoyed called Orlando by Virginia Woolf. And I was like, yeah, Virginia Woolf. That's pretty heady stuff, huh? So I went up to Kevin Chapp, who is one of the people who publishes the series, and said, Kevin, please, I want to do a ley lines. I'm super knowledgeable. I'm going to do it about Virginia Woolf's Orlando and how great it is. And Kevin was like, sure, okay, yeah, go for it. And I was like, yes, I got it. And then I went to reread the book in preparation for this because I hadn't read it since I was a young person. And I read it and I read it and I read it. And I was like, this book is not how I remember it. And I'm having a lot of feelings. And now I have to, I guess, make a comic about this thing that I'm kind of angry about, to be honest. So I was thinking about it and thinking about it and struggling with like, okay, like I dug this hole for myself. What am I going to do? And then I was like, wait a second. I'm going to make a comic about these feelings that I'm having reading this book and hope that it's okay that I'm asking someone to publish a comic where I'm not exactly singing the praises of the highbrow work of art that I'm interacting with. And so, Cabra Cabra by Victor Martins. Page 1. There's a big forest, and in the background, the sea. There's a hill jutting out over the canopies of all the trees, with a big tree on top of it. Under the tree, there's someone reading a book. The narration says, I was the goat behind the bush near the top of the hill where the oak tree grew, with an arrow pointing to a goat hiding behind a bush, looking at the person reading a book. There's other woodland creatures hidden among the tree canopies, also looking at the person. The next 3 panels are of the goat's face, getting closer and closer. Watching, says the first panel. We notice that there's a zipper and a little hole right next to the goat's eye. Watching, says the second panel. This panel is just the upper part of the goat's face. The hole next to the goat's eye seems to indicate that there's something underneath the goat's skin, but we can't make it out. Watching, says the third panel. A close-up of the hole. A person's eye. Is there someone disguised as a goat? Next page. I was there when you, says the narration. The person who was reading the book, Orlando, is lying underneath a tree with his shirt open, getting frisky with a girl. The narration says, and when you, Orlando is getting busy with a different person, a really old lady with a super fancy dress and wig. They're kissing? She kind of looks like Queen Elizabeth. The narration says, and when you, Orlando has his shoes off and he's still getting busy with a different girl. This one has a big Russian looking fur hat. There's been woodland animals throughout, just sort of watching Orlando get it on with all these different people. It's kind of creepy. Next page. There's a person with the same face and hair as Orlando, except they're wearing a dress from a different era. I guess some time has passed and Orlando's a girl now? She's still doing her thing, just again, getting busy with a girl while animals watch. The narration says, and girl Orlando is now under the oak tree, looking alone and wistful. And the narration says, Orlando has her shirt open with Edwardian looking clothes. Some guy is just touching her boobs. The last panel is a close-up of the goat's face, watching, close enough to show the eye of the person underneath the goat skin. Next page. There's a big party. People are wearing Elizabethan period clothes, so we're back in the 16th century. It's still a wild party. There's lights and ribbons and colors and so many people. Everyone's white and dressed to the nines, full of frills and lots of fabric. They're all dancing their butts off. All the beautiful people threw a dance party, says a narration. I wasn't invited. There's an arrow coming out of the narration, pointing to a bush tucked away behind all the partygoers. Our friend the goat is way back there, alone and watching. In the next panel, our goat friend is still looking at the party, and he's being approached by a bunch of other woodland creatures with zippers on their necks. A deer says, hey, we're kind of sick of this literary voyeurism thing, so we're throwing our own dance party. Do you want to come? I'm obviously extremely busy, says the goat in the next panel, shooing away all the other woodland creatures like shoo shoo. The other animals are backing away, walking off into the woods, the deer with their hands up like, okay. Next page. I'm obviously extremely busy, said the goat. Looking at them, says the narration. We see the courtiers who were partying before are looking at Orlando. Looking at you, Orlando is dancing prettily. Them, the courtiers, still looking at Orlando, blushing. You, Orlando is looking really beguiling, winking back at the nobles. Next page. Them, one of the courtiers is full on swooning. Another few are covering their faces with the fans. Everyone's blushing mildly as they're confronted by Orlando's butt. There's sparkles coming off of it because it's so nice. You, says the narration. Them, courtiers absolutely losing it, gasping, hearts coming out of their eyes. You, Orlando dancing real good, sparkles everywhere. Them, says the narration. You, says the narration. Them, you, me. We see goat in their little hideout with trees behind them, with their arms crossed and looking really pissed with little steam lines coming out of their head. Next page. There's a big castle with expensive looking horses and serfs doing their serf thing, like farming and stuff. The narration says, you're so rich. There's diamonds and precious coins everywhere and so pretty. Orlando's smiling with her head turned away from us and his hands up like, haha, I'm so enchanting. The narration says, and so, next page. The narration turns into a word balloon and so thin and so white. There's a picture of thin white Orlando on the word balloon. I don't know, he looks pretty good. And such a goddamn racist, says the word balloon narration. And your little court keeps playing it off, but you're such a racist. Why? Why? Turns out Goat is the one who's been talking. They're gesturing wildly. They're really mad. Underneath, Goat is reading a book, just paging through it, pointing at it, going, ooh, slur, oop, slur, slur, ooh, Orientalism, slur. We see that the name on the cover of the book is Orlando. Next page. The goat sighs, his hands on his temples, steadying himself. There's a little heart on the left side of their chest. In the next panel, Goat's heart is trying to escape off his chest, like in old-timey cartoons, when someone sees someone they really like ba-doom. And you, says the goat, talking to their heart, what the fuck is wrong with you? You like him so much? Fine, says the goat in the next panel, reaching into their chest. The goat is behind the bush on top of the hill with the oak tree and reaches into their chest and flings his heart, which does a loop-de-loop and falls really, really close to Orlando's feet. The heart falls and is still beating. Ba-doom, ba-doom. Next page. So Goat's behind the bush on top of the hill, looking kind of expectantly at Orlando, who's underneath the oak tree with a goat's heart at his feet. Orlando's looking off into the distance, hands clasped over his chest, longing, longing. In the next panel, Orlando is fretting, fretting, walking towards the goat's heart. The goat looks a little alarmed. In the next panel, the goat is looking really stressed. Orlando's foot is right over the goat's heart. Did Orlando not notice that it's there? In the next panel, Orlando's foot just lands just right on that heart, stepping on it real good. A few drops of blood get squished out. In the next panel, Orlando, too overcome with emotion to even notice what happened, walks off the hill, away from the goat's stepped on heart, looking really distraught and dramatic, like, oh, oh. The goat is freaking out behind a bush with a bunch of exclamation marks over their head. Next page. The goat is walking really determinedly towards their heart, like, goddamn unbelievable. The goat's picking up their heart, dusting it off a little bit. The gall, I swear. Hey, hey! The goat is like sort of waving his hand at Orlando, really, really mad, as Orlando like sort of looks back at the goat in the middle of his whole woe is me bit. And the goat is storming towards Orlando, who has a single tear falling from his eye and just looks really confused. Orlando does not know what's going on. The goat says, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" The goat asks. Next page. The goat's just letting Orlando have it. "Couldn't you have just let me love you?" The goat says, "No, you have to go and be terrible. Terrible. I love you, and I think you're terrible, and you don't care." Orlando is kind of kneeling down to listen, still not super sure what's happening, looking kind of confused. Next panel. "In fact," says the goat, "I sincerely doubt you'd even be able to extend me the courtesy of seeing me as a person." Orlando's kneeling right by the goat now, listening to the goat. "Do you have any idea how shitty it is for me in here?" The goat's tugging at their goat skin. "This thing is so itchy." We see that Orlando is reaching up, sort of behind his face and taking his face off. Was Orlando's face a costume? Like maybe a mask? Next page. There's a dark-haired white lady underneath the Orlando mask. She looks very confused, a bunch of interrogation points over her head, and says, "Talking goat?" Next panel. She reaches over to touch the goat's face, her other hand still holding the Orlando mask. The goat doesn't look very pleased. The lady says, "Horace? Is that you?" Ow! The goat attacks the lady in the third panel. "Don't you fucking touch me, Virginia Woolf," says the goat. Virginia Woolf just sort of falls over, weakly saying, "Ah." Panel 4. Ting! The goat with a light bulb over their head. "They've just had an idea." "Wait," they say. Next panel. "Of course." They're like, they have their hand on their head, like, how could I not have thought of this before? Next panel. "What am I thinking?" The goat's on top of Virginia Woolf, who's just lying there in the daze. Next panel. Goat says, "I can nip this right in the bud. Thank goodness I still have this thing." In the next panel, Goat's jumping into a cardboard box that says "Time Machine" on it, with Virginia Woolf's little feet just off screen. Zwip! There's a time portal with an arrow pointing to it and stars coming out of it. The goat is using the time machine. Next page. Zoop! "Okay, kid, listen up. I know you like this book, but..." The goat is stepping out of the time machine, which is in the process of coming through a time portal. We're in the child's bedroom with a kid with short hair wearing a t-shirt and a baseball cap reading in bed. There's a big piece of furniture that splits the room in two, the kid on the bed with their book on one side and the goat on the other. "This book," says the goat, "let me tell you, it is problematic." Another goat that looks identical to the first goat, except full of scars and wearing an eye patch, appears suddenly and shushes the original goat, their hand over the goat's mouth. "Me from the future," says the first goat. "What are you doing here?" "You're making a mistake," says the future goat, holding present goat's face in his hands. "Look," he gestures towards the kid. The next panel shows what the goats are looking at, the kid in their bedroom. For a kid in a baseball cap and a t-shirt, the bedroom is weirdly, like, girly. There's pictures of unicorns, the furniture is all frilly, and there's dolls everywhere. Next panel, the present goat is looking at future goat, saying, "I don't..." No, says future goat, holding present goat's face with one hand and a pair of binoculars with the others. "Look," says future goat, putting the pair of binoculars up to present goat's eyes. Next page. This page shows the view from the binoculars. The kid's face super big, and all sorts of very complicated looking math and sciencey graphs on the right side. At the very top, a label that says Feelings Goggles 3000. Zoom. We zoom in, and now the feelings goggles show the inside of the kid's head, their brain, and their eyeballs. The readouts from the binoculars say activity, reading, engagement rate, 100%, ignoring calls for dinner, yes, eye shiny level, high shoujo, mind status, blown, and there's little fireworks coming out of the kid's brain. At the bottom left, there's a thought report, but the words are too small for us to make them out. Next page, a picture of just a thought report, big enough that we can read everything that it says. From off the page, future goat says, Look at the readouts. Look at what their little brain is saying. Thought report. And I'm gonna read what's written in the thought report. Oh, oh, they were a boy, but now they have to be a girl, but they're still a boy. And it's fine, and they're good. They're a boy who has to be a girl, but they're still a boy, and it's okay. Okay, now zoom in, says Future Goat, still from off panel. Next page. We've zoomed into the thought report times 1,000 so that the words are huge on the page. Catch that subtext, says Future Goat. We see that there were tiny little words in between each line on the thought report. They say, just like me, just like me, just like me, over and over and over again. In the bottom right corner, there's a panel with the two goats. Present goat has taken the binoculars off, and future goat has her arms crossed and is just like casually chilling on the furniture. Dang, says present goat. Yeah, eh? Says future goat. Next page. I'd forgotten, says present goat, sliding down to the ground and passing the binoculars back to future goat. Yep, says future goat. Here, I'll drop you off, says future goat. Both the goats are getting back into the cardboard box / time machine. Next panel, the kid is still reading. They were so absorbed in their book that they didn't even notice anything happened. There's a faint zweep and some sparkles as the goats travel back. Next page, zweep. We're back in the forest with present goat looking sort of embarrassed and contrite. So they're sort of like holding themselves. Then future goat is walking towards present goat saying, this racist white lady's racist book will never not have been important to you, you know? But raging at a dead old British writer isn't going to do anything. Neither does beating herself up for having found a framework within which to understand her gender identity and her very flawed work. Future Goat shrugs. She sucks. You liked her. It's fine. Present Goat is crossing their arms, looking skeptical and uncomfortable. Like, they're not very convinced. Future Goat pats present goat on the arm. It's fine. Next page. Present goat slides down on the ground and sits, looking like a little kid pouting. Future goat is right next to them and says, it's okay to move past things you loved. Future goat, in the next panel, kneels by present goat and takes their little hands. It's okay to want to feel seen. Present goat's still pouting a little bit. It's okay to expect better. Future goat is like patting present goat, comforting them. Present goat looks a little less upset. But also, says future goat, Virginia Woolf is definitely not the person who's going to give you these things. How about instead, future goat is whispering into present goat's ear, with present goat listening attentively. Next panel, present goat looks a little surprised with an exclamation mark over their head. Oh my God, you're right, he says. Next panel, present goat is scratching their chin, frowning a little bit. I'm so embarrassed. Next panel, future goat gives present goat a little goat thumbs up. Yeah, it's mortifying. And then at the very, very bottom, there's a little Easter egg. There's 3 tiny drawings with tiny writing. It's present goat saying, hey, how come you came to help me? Future goat says, you wouldn't have listened to anyone else, you stubborn goat. True, says present goat. Good luck, says future goat, and sweep away in the time machine. Next page. The next page shows the group of animals that invited present goat, now back to just being goat, to a party earlier. There's a squirrel, a reindeer, a rabbit, a bear, a regular deer, a fox, and a raccoon, all person-sized, all with little zippers on their chests. Goat is approaching them, waving and saying, hi, everybody. Next panel, just the goat, looking a little nervous and tentative. I'm here for the dance party, if that's okay. Next panel, the deer who originally invited the goat to the party is saying, yeah, of course, and beckoning with their hand. We're just getting started. Next panel, all the animals are standing around kind of awkwardly, looking at each other, not really knowing what to do. I want snacks, says the squirrel. Next page, I brought snacks, says the fox. It's a full page image of all the animals getting ready to party. Anyone want tea? Asks the bear, holding a tea kettle and a bunch of little mugs. Oh my God, can I pick the music? Asks the squirrel, waving. They have the little MP3 in their other hand. Girl, if you pick the music, everybody's gonna leave, says the rabbit, crouching down by a little stereo. The raccoon is unzipping their zipper, zoop, and there's a little face under there. The other animals are also taking their animal skin off, their animal costumes. Next page. there's a full page image of everyone who is wearing animal costumes. They're all people. And unlike the courtiers, they don't all look the same. They have different skin tones and hair textures, and they're all dressed differently. And they're all dancing together, having a really great time. The end.
Wow, it's so fucking good. Holy shit. I just love that comic so much. Oh my god, it's so good. So good. Thank you. Thank you, Victor. Do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Oh, please ask me some questions.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off some low-hanging fruit. Some easy to just warm us up. But why did you decide on a goat as your main character's costume?
So that's a two-parter for me too. The first part is I was kind of annoyed that like people kept assuming that my work was autobio even when it wasn't really, in a way that I felt like people weren't really assuming about, say, Joshua Smith, the English literature professor who's writing about Thomas Johnson, the English literature professor, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I mean, yeah, they're both English literature professors, but of course they're completely different people. Like, he definitely doesn't actually want to fuck his students. That's not what this guy's saying. And it's like, okay. So I wanted something that like put a little bit of distance between like autobio and this comic, even though it is a comic about an experience that I've had. I didn't want it to be like Victor Martin's comic about Victor Martin's. This is his life, you know? So I knew that I wanted that distance. And then I was thinking about the comic, and I was thinking about like, it's a comic about someone reading, right? And it's a comic about like the shared, like people sharing the experience of reading. So I was like, okay, how do I represent that? Like they're reading, it's like they got sucked into this world of this comic, I guess. And like if you're just a white reader, you can like put a fancy wig on and like some ruffles and blend in seamlessly. But since Orlando doesn't really have any people of color for most of the book, and then has some really racist depictions of people of color for a little bit of the book, if you were to read that book and as a person of color and just put on some ruffles and a wig, you would really stand out. So I was like, okay, how are people of color accessing this work and this universe for like, you just whoop, drop into books that you're reading? And I figured, oh, like, of course, they're gonna like dress up as things that you won't really notice. So they're like woodland animals and farm animals, like
Right.
things that get to watch what's going on without getting any attention paid to them. And then I was like, and also the main character is a goat, because goats are smelly and kind of off-putting, but also I find them really disarming. Like you see a goat and you're not really, oh,
You're
what's
not
that
threatened.
goat? Yeah, you're not threatened, and you're not like, oh, that goat's definitely plotting something. Like it's eating
Right.
a tin can. It's fine. It's not really thinking anything. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. That's great. I also was hoping we could talk a little bit about the paneling in the book, because I just like love it so much. Most actually, I don't know if I'd say most, but it really stands out in the comic that you're not following sort of the traditional, quote unquote, traditional paneling sense of square boxes and neat little shapes on a page. If there's even boxes on the page, they're kind of wonky and all kinds of shapes and sizes. And it's really fun. And it's also extremely easy to read. It's not, you know, me as a cartoonist, I'm like, I have to put everything in a box. I cannot. I literally start paneling. Like I put up my thumbs. I'm like, okay, so I start with boxes and then I have to fill the box in. Like I can't, my brain cannot like work any other way. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? What was your inspiration for tackling your paneling in this way for this book?
Sure. So right before I started working on this, Connor Williamson had a book launch at the Beguiling, and he was talking about, like, he did this really cerebral talk about how he approaches being able to not have panels in his comics, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's so cool," and I was like, "Oh, it's cool." Like that's a cool thing, because uh I think panels are the devil. And I have the hardest time. Like I'm literally the opposite of you, where I'm like, okay, there's this thing, and now I guess I have to draw a box around it. So once I had the information that this is cool, um, actually I tried doing it for another project. And first note that the
Ooh.
editor gave me was like, no one can read this. Like there's a reason things are in boxes. And I was like, okay.
I guess.
That was a bust.
Listen, I tried.
And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm working on ley lines, and they're super cool. And they're all about like, oh yeah, experiment with the medium. And I'm like, I'm gonna experiment with the medium and not put some things in squares, and hopefully it'll read okay. Um, so that's where that came from. It's also like, it's honestly just closer to how I think about comics. And since I got to not draw squares, I was like, use less time, you know?
Totally. I think it kind of came out in the comic that you were just like, you can feel how much fun and how much fun you were having with it, and how honest the book was. We have a audience question. We have a couple of audience questions. So we're going to start with one from Sebastien, who asks, you told us that you were nervous about the reactions your comic would get, but how was it received in the end? It was super honest and moving. Thank you so much for sharing.
Like, to be honest, I didn't actually get to see a lot of the reception of my comic because I finished it, like I was about to start like I guess selling it to people. Like I was about to start talking about it and doing all the stuff. And then the pandemic started, right? I got to have a book launch at the Beguiling, which my friend Jarrett moderated, and like he's lovely. So of course, like that went super well, and I was really glad.
We love Jarrett.
Yeah, no, he's great. And like 2-3 people maybe reached out to me and were like, yeah, that was great, thanks. So that was great, thanks. Like no one's trying to like cancel me yet, which is good.
Congratulations. You John. Okay, and then we have another one from Sarah, who asks, I love Future Goat. They are so well traveled. Any cool anecdotes you can share about some of Future Goat's travels / missions?
I think that they lost their eye and got all those cards from a laser incident during like some space related thing. That's all I know. Also, they know how to drive. That's all the backstory I have.
Imagine knowing how to drive.
I literally can't. Like, incredible.
Okay, so do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, do one more question and then we'll move on to the last presenter of the evening.
Awesome. Okay, so we have one last question, Victor. This is from Vinci. Vinci asks, how do you go about not depicting panels in comics? What issues or happy things happened along the way? I'd love to know as someone who works on comics without panels.
Like, it's literally like, here's the page, and I'm making a page shape with my hand, and then there's a thing here, and then another thing here. And I feel like if there's enough room between them, or like a strong enough horizontal or vertical dividing them, then maybe it'll be okay. I'm honestly mostly just like going for it and hoping it works.
Extremely good.
And I haven't done that since this comic because everyone's been like serious comic project time, and I'm like serious comic project time, square, square, square.
Comic with a capital C.
But it was, yeah, it's fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victor.
Of course. And now it's time for the final boyfriend. Meow. Keelan Gorlewski, take it away.
Woo!
I don't know how much the light has changed. Is this okay? I don't know. It's fine, right?
Yeah, the lighting looks great.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, hold on. I'm going to just let me set up this. I'm gonna share my screen on Google Chrome. Share. Do you see this? Are you seeing this?
Yep, it's live
It's live.
Yeah.
and
That's-
moving, slightly moving too. Look at that, real live.
Yeah, please use my gifts on Instagram. Yes, here I am back. I'm gonna be reading a comic. I'm gonna be reading, oh, do we wanna know about this? Okay, this is a gif of me really wistfully, I suppose, thinking the word Lyman, which is a horrible / good book series from the 1960s. I don't wanna talk about it. Anyway, I'm going to be reading a comic called The Long Sleep. I've been told to put in content warning for suicide and suicide ideation. So I got a pen from my friend Anna in the summer, and I hadn't done a comic in a while, and I thought I should do a comic. And I went home and I had this notebook that I got from Christine in the mail. It has like animals on it. And so with my chicken pen, because it's shaped like a chicken, I did half this comic. I didn't really plan it. I didn't really think about it. I just did it, which is a good way to do things. And then my pen ran out halfway through, and I picked it up a couple in February, I suppose, because I'm looking at my free talk now at the back of the thing. And so in February, I did the other half. And I didn't really edit it or anything. It's a big improv comic. Anyway, so this is the cover. It is also all the pages are one panel, just so we know from going forward. So this first panel, well, the cover actually, no, already. So it is a person with their eyes closed, lying down, close up. The bottom of the panel, they have a little oxygen tube under their nose, and in behind them, we see an IV bag with like a IV tube coming out of it, and it's like on like one of those, I'm gonna call it a stand. Behind them is a window, has some trees coming out of it. Under that, it says The Long Sleep, and then it says my name. So page 1, we open on a hospital room and someone lying in the hospital bed with their little IV, and next to them is like a heart monitor, I believe, and a doctor that's like checking them out, and like a nurse is like hooking up the IV, and there's a painting, probably a dog behind them, and then there's the window with the trees and narration. 6 months ago, I faked an illness to be put into a medically induced coma. Next page. So the image is the person lying in their bed with their little finger tag and their IV coming out of their hand. And their little oxygen tubes and their IV bag, and the nurse and the doctor talking over them. Narration. I never thought I'd be acting on fantasy like this, but I just didn't want to live right now. Next page. There's a bit more close up on them in the bed still, and they're looking to the side of them. Narration. I know some people would accuse me of wasting medical resources bought with tax dollars for my silly little stent. Next page. The nurse is injecting some medicine into the IV bag, which is what you do. The IV bag says coma juice on it. Narration. And it probably would have taken less effort to kill myself, but next page. They're in bed, looking up at the ceiling with the IV bag behind them and the window behind them. Narration. I guess I was hoping I would wake up to a better world. Next page. It was the same shot, but they've closed their eyes. Next page. Some scribbles, darkness, unclear what's going on. Just, you know, some scribbles. Next page. Also some scribbles, but new scribbles. Next page. New scribbles as well. Narration. Even in a coma, you can have dreams and hear noises. Next page with the scribbles again, but new scribbles, as I said. Narration. Outside conversation can permeate your mind, influence your brain. Next page. I'm very fidgety. New scribbles, I believe, unless I've repeated some scribbles. This is a repeat scribble, but just ignore that. It's unclear. Next page. Very, very close up on the person. Their eyes are closed. And you can see the little oxygen tube under their nose. Narration. When I woke up, and then next panel is the same shot, but they're waking up and it's kind of like a gasp. And their mouth is open, their eyes are wide. Next page. It's the shot of the hospital room. They are sitting up in their little hospital bed. The trees outside are bare now, no leaves. And they're sitting up, they're shooting up out of their bed. And there's the doctor and the nurse are gone. Narration. I was alone and it was quiet. Next page. They're sitting up in their hospital bed. They're looking towards the IV bag, which is empty now. Narration. The drugs that kept me asleep were out. Next page. They're getting out of the bed. They're taking the little oxygen tube off their face. Narration. When a nurse didn't come after I rang, I decided to investigate. I feel doctors would have been there for my awakening if planned. Next page. They are falling out of the bed. Their hand is kind of doing the thing where you have you're like maybe like attached to like a rope or something. I don't know, you're like at rock climbing or I don't know, you know, whatever. And then you try to walk and then you're attached to the rope still, but you don't you kind of forgot. So it's like pulling you back, I guess, you know, something like that. So they're falling out of the bed, but the IV cord, which is still in their hand, because those are actually hard to get out by yourself, is like pulling them back. Narration. Of course, my muscle is atrophied. My leg muscle is atrophied. Next page. They're kind of looking at their IV in their hand, a little bit like resigned, like they're like, okay, well, narration. I didn't know how to get the IV out. Next page. They're standing with their IV stand, with the IV still in their hand, very walking on shaky legs down the hallway, the corridor of the hospital. Past some doors has the numbers 1502 and 1504 next to each other. Narration. The stand was a good walker though, so I made use. I tried to figure out how the rooms are numbered. There's no hospital in the world with 15 floors. Next page. They are standing, looking towards a nurse's station. We see their back, there's no one there. Narration. No one at the nurse's station. They're sitting in the canteen in a little chair. There's trees outside, which are full for some reason, but please ignore the continuity error. I'm aware of it. But there's a bunch of tables around. It's kind of a far away shot. And they're just sitting at one of the tables with their stand next to them. Narration. No one in the canteen. Next page. Out on the hospital roof, you know, on the hospital, hospital roofs. And it's like, or like any roof, and there's like the square, the rectangle building-y bit at the top of it that you come out of with your door. Right, and there's like a ladder and it says H on the top for hospital. They're looking out the door. It's kind of a wider shot. Narration, no one on the roof. Next page is we're in the OR, and it's where we see a operating table and like a little cart for the surgery tools and a big lamp. They're like standing behind in the observation window. Narration, no one in the OR. Next page. They're holding their IV stand, looking forwards. Narration. Apart from the feeling something horrible had happened, I was also really feeling the FOMO. Next page. They look towards their IV bag. And now the IV bag says the word, which I can read, that says pentobarbital, which we understand to be the name of the coma juice, now that we're paying attention to it. Next page. They're walking off with their IV stand in tow. Next page. They are in a supply closet. They are kneeling on the ground, rummaging through the shelves. On the shelves, we see bottles and kind of jugs and boxes of presumably maybe rubbing alcohol. I don't really know. Rubbing alcohol gauze. Vena cava. Wait, yes. No. Stuff. Wait, vena cava is the heart thing. What's the thing? Doesn't matter because none of you can answer. So don't worry about it. Medical things. It doesn't matter at all. So they're rummaging through it. The IV stand is next to them. Narration. I just had to find the pentobarbital, then I could go back to sleep. Next page. They're holding a little bag of pentobarbital. IV fluid. That was my phone dropping on the floor. They are looking at it. It says micro only pentobarbital. They're holding it, looking down, thinking, micro, what does that mean? Next page. They find the micro set that goes with the micro only pentobarbital. And they're thinking, micro set for the bag, I guess. Next page. They are reaching up to the IV bag. And fiddling with the IV tube coming out of the little, tool that makes it go in. Thinking, okay, so I will screw the tube, then screw it into the micro thing, then screw it into the new bag. Next page, they are screwing it into the little bag. Like so, they think. Next page. They are replacing the bag on the stand. Like so, they think. Next page. They are holding on to their little IV stand with the new IV fluid. They are back in the corridor, passing by the rooms 1502, 1504. They're kind of stumbling along. They're thinking, time to get out of here. Next page. They collapse a little bit, but they still have their little IV stand holding them up. And they're thinking, dizzy. They're back in their hospital room, approaching their bed, holding on to the IV stand, thinking, almost there. If you look very closely on the almost there, I believe that is a bit of my hair that fell onto the scanner that I didn't edit out. Next page. They've approached the bed and they are making their way to get on it. They're thinking, I'm so tired now. Next page. They're crawling into bed. They're thinking, bedtime. Next page. They're laying down, the hand over their chest, looking up at the ceiling. Their IV stand is next to them, beside the bed, attached to their hand. And next page, they close their eyes. So that was that comic. I have some other funny comics to read, if you all would like that. Okay, so these are some funny comics from two of my books, which are called Very Funny Comics. I kind of forget the names. And then also the other one is called Extremely Rad and Funny Comics, I believe. Correct me. So the first comic here, it's a 3-panel comic. It's entitled Me Making This Book. There I am sitting in my chair at my desk in front of my Cintiq, which is my big drawing screen, holding my little pen. Next panel. I am looking at my PSD file. You can see it says cool/funny2.psd. I'm staring at it, saying, you can see 3 panels on the PSD screen. I go back to drawing it in the 3rd panel. It says, gonna be a bad comic. Moving on to the next comic, entitled Horse Person Solidarity. This is at my school during my thesis year. Here I am presenting the work I have done so far in front of my class. I am sighing, touching the screen, perhaps forlornly or resignedly, sighing. This is back when I had bangs. It's those days, and I had a little pony, which is funny. I'm saying, I guess I am a horse girl after all. On the PSD is a horse because I was animating a horse at the time. Next panel is my teacher, Tom. He is bald. He is sitting very primly with his arms crossed. And he says, I'm a horse boy. Next panel, me and the 3 classmates I have drawn are all staring at him. And he is still sitting primly with his arms crossed and his legs crossed because it was a bizarre thing to say. And also out of nowhere, but then he showed us this is not in the comic, but then he sent me a photo over Twitter that was him on a horse as a really young child, as black and white. It was really funny, but he's a horse boy, so. Next page of comics. So the first comic, also, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, these are all 3-panel comics. So the next one, entitled, I can't do this, entitled Mr. Shit Smell. It's bird's eye view. You can see my feet. It's a keel and eye view down at a cat who was meowing. He's a cat. It's on a tiled floor. I am saying, it is coming from my feet, but it's me saying it. I'm saying, you're so fucking stupid, idiot. I hate you. He is meowing. My former roommate, who is wonderful, Emily, she picks him up, she scoops him up in her arms, and she says, stop, don't say that to him. Next panel. I am a bit disgruntled. I'm saying why, he can't understand. She's holding him. He's trying to get out of her arms because he doesn't like being held. And she's saying, he's a small boy. She has glasses, by the way. Next comic, entitled, But I Love Him. There I am sitting at my Cintiq, my drawing screen again, drawing my little 3-panel comics, and I look back because behind me is a cat. He is beautiful. He's just sitting there, and I look at him perhaps lovingly and say, God, you're so fucking cute, because he is cute. He is beautiful. And those are my, oh God, no, I have another one. Next page of comic, just one comic. It's entitled Using Someone Else's Shower Etiquette. This is about when, before my grad show a couple years ago, I had gone to Jade's place of work, and I had asked them for their keys so I could hang out at their house alone with them there and Annabelle This is Kat, and also shower. Happy birthday, Annabelle. Anyway, so first panel, me in the shower, but it's like PG, so it's fine. And there's a shower coming out, there's water coming out of the shower. So it's okay, gotta be respectful and only use the bare minimum. Next panel goes to a nice big bottle on a little, perhaps a little, like, you know, it's like, you know, it's on a thing in the shower. It's like a little rack. It says fancy soap on it. And I say, oh, fancy soap. And the next panel, it is, what I was going for was like a funny anime upshot. Is that what it's called? But it's like, my hand is very close to the camera and I am kind of, the rest of me is in darkness and I'm looking down on it very menacingly and I am squeezing a lot of the bottle out into my palm, an excess, because it's very fancy and I want to use it. And those are my comics. Thank you so much. I wish Victor was here. Oh, Victor, thank you for showing up.
Of course, ask and you shall receive.
Yeah,
Keelan, I have some questions.
you do.
I do. Can I ask them?
Yeah, I suppose so.
So, question number one. So you were like, I'm gonna make a comic and I'm not gonna plan ahead. And
Mhm.
this comic is gonna be set in a hospital.
Yeah,
How come? How come hospital?
unfortunately, I don't really watch a lot of media, like movies or TV, but I have seen Scrubs probably 5 to 6 times in full and also individual episodes more than that. And I know, you know, you can name a plot point for me and then I'll be like, oh, that's this episode, this is the title, you know, this is a song that's in it. Oh my gosh. Also, when it got put on, I got like put online and they lost the rights to some songs, so they had to change some. And like immediately I'd be like, that song's not right. That's supposed to be Avril Lavigne, you know? Anyway, my point is I really like Scrubs. And so I feel like I like grew up watching it a lot, I guess. And so a lot of my default scenarios are just like immediately a hospital. And like a TV show, even though, okay, you know, so I don't know a lot of things are, but like the nurse's station is like exactly the nurse's station from Scrubs that I've drawn from memory. You can look it up. Stuff like that, the roof, the OR, just like the classic places in the Scrubs show. Anyway, that's all it is. It's nothing interesting at all.
I thought it was fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's your favorite Scrubs character?
Next question.
So can you talk a little bit about the differences and both like how it feels to be working on something and your thought process and workflow when you're doing something with no planning, you're just like make comic, versus when you're working on something that maybe needs a little more or a lot more research, like if something's set, say, in medieval times, just off the cuff.
Vaguely 14th to maybe 13th century Italy.
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah. Right. So I just find making comics like on the fly is like a really easy way to get things done. And I feel like we really we took that in spirit at like Comic Club, which we used to all be at, where we'd make shitty comics and like have to do them in like a really small amount of time, just like have like a prompt and just like do them kind of thing. So I was like thinking about it. I was thinking about it after, because I mean, these questions aren't pre-planned or anything, or they weren't, you know, whatever.
We didn't practice.
We don't, well, I clearly don't, but like you did tell me about them. I just hadn't really thought about it, but I did think about it a little bit. But I think that's like, it's just good to get something out and something done, you know? That's really, it's just like the planning of things can sometimes just like be really overwhelming and like drive you down or something, and it like takes a long time. And so I literally did this in like 3 hours or something. I should stop sharing my screen. Stop. Oh God, did it stop sharing?
Yep, you're live again.
Okay, great. It doesn't say that to me. Oh God, it doesn't want, it wants me to, oh, because oh my God, sorry, I have to fix something quick. Right. So anyway, right. What was I saying? I'm sorry.
You were saying that you made the comic in just literally 3 hours.
Oh yeah, this is done 3 hours, just all straight to pen, right? Here I am holding up my comic that I did. It's like completely like unedited and stuff like that. So like it's just like I really don't even want to think about it. I just want to get something out with and that's how I kind of started doing comics as well. And then in school when we had to actually like plan our comics, that was also because also get to plan things and you can like you can you get to think about things more, and that's also really helpful, obviously. And you do a bunch of thumbnails and you can like figure out how things go, and that makes for more, I feel, mostly impactful comics a lot of the time. So my main process for that, and for also the like in the in-between stuff where I just like draw in my sketchbook and then like kind of figure it out from there and like piece things together, because I draw like a little individual scenes that I think would be good. And then I kind of like lay in bed and I think about it and think of how things like I want things to go, but like don't really write it down. But I will write down like dialogue or something in like a Google Doc, just like random pieces as showing people my like scripts for something else today, and it's just like in chunks of like stuff, so it's not really like it is in order, but it's like not, there's like a lot of pieces missing, but it's just like the parts I thought about. It just sounds rambly, but this is my process. Well, did that answer your question? Or
I don't remember what my question was, but
yeah, me
probably.
neither. It's easier to do something that's just like right away off the cuff, but it is better to plan things, and I like having a nice middle, but obviously I do have to plan things now.
That sounds very reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an audience question from
great.
Annabelle, who says, not a question, but I hope you greatly enjoyed my Crabtree and Evelyn soap.
I did. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, no, actually it might've been shampoo. It said birthday cake on it. I don't know what that was. Or it's like birthday something. I didn't want to say fancy shampoo. I don't really know what it was. Annabelle, thank you so much for the use of your, I'm pretty sure it's shampoo or a conditioner. Doesn't matter. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Annabelle.
Happy birthday, Annabelle.
Annabelle.
I don't know. Yes, any more questions?
Not from me.
Oh.
Well, we've got one general question for all of you from an anonymous attendee that's also been on my mind a lot. Whether or not you want to share this information is up to you guys. The anonymous attendee writes, I really enjoyed all your readings. Just curious how Hello Boyfriend was formed and what the experience of being in a comics collective is like. Also, have you been working collaboratively on anything during the pandemic?
All right, Jade, you're muted, by the way.
I have nothing to say at this moment.
Third outfit change, though.
Oh yes, sorry, I do have something to say. It is my third outfit change of the night, as it is now cold in my room. I'm wearing a sweater that says "Cool Dog" on it, and there is a cool dog, and then it also says "Bow Wow Woof." Now 13/22/12, all 40. P.O. Box 3481, Providence, Rhode Island, and then there's a postal code.
Good sweater.
Very good sweater. I'm very happy with this sweater.
So I think I can kind of answer this question a little bit, and then if the other boyfriends want to jump in or add things or correct me on what I'm misremembering. But how we were formed is we all met in university. So we were all studying animation and or illustration, and we're a bunch of nerds who love comics very much. And we were like, hey, and by we, I mean Victor was like, hey, I'm gonna start a comics club. And I was like, that's cool. And Victor was like, you should be in it. And I was like, I don't really want to be in it, And Victor was like, fine, I'll get someone else to be in it. Hey, Jade Armstrong, be in my comic club. And Jade Armstrong was like, yeah, I'll be in it. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'll go to your comic club or whatever. And then I went. And then at some point, Keelan joined. I can't think of any particular funny moment for how or when Keelan joined, but it was in this club that we all met for the first time, and we started meeting up weekly. And of course, there were like random other people, like other students at the college that showed up, but we just got along really well. And then at some point, my bossy nature took over, and I started taking on more administrative stuff in the club too.
Classic Christina.
Because that's what I do. And then me and Victor are like, we should make a comic. Yeah, but we don't know how to make comics. Yeah, I think Jade knows how to make comics. Yeah. So then we tricked Jade into joining us to make comics. And then Keelan was around, and I was like, who's this like really beautiful girl that's been coming around here? And someone was like, that's Keelan. And I was like, Keelan. And we all became friends and stuff, and make comics. We get along great. So that's the first part of how we met. University, comics making club. What is the experience like? It's a lot of us being really stupid with each other and getting each other really excited and cheering each other on about everything. It's really great. It's really great in like getting your butt in gear. I find that sometimes I have difficulty like getting started on projects if it's just me, because it's like, what am I gonna do? Like sue myself? But with responsibility and like other people counting on me, accountability, I find it really great where it's like, well, if I don't do this, I'm gonna let like my friends down, and I really want to do stuff with my cool friends.
I was gonna say, like, key part of the experience is us letting each other down. Like, there's a lot of, oh yeah, we're totally gonna do this, and then no.
Yeah.
And then we have to be like, okay, so like what's missing and what's not working and how are we feeling? There's a lot of talking about feelings and a lot of like trying things out, and sometimes they work really well, sometimes they don't work at all, and just committing to working through it anyway, because we like each other and we like working together.
Yeah, I think like any relationship, right? And like any long-term serious relationship, there comes to the point where we really have to be honest with each other and see, you know, working together and making things. For every like successful project that you see us do, there are definitely like 3 that died along the side of the road on the way that didn't make it. Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Sweet.
let's
Well,
see.
thanks for answering that. I've got a question, because my mind was just blown when Keelan mentioned that it only took them 3 hours to make the story that they told, which is just mind-boggling to me. How long did your guys' stories take you to write or draw collectively? And I'd also am curious about how long each 3-panel comic took for you to draw, Keelan, since we've already touched on how long the longer form took.
Do I answer immediately? Oh, for the 3-panel comics, I kind of think of something funny, I guess, and then I will sketch it out and then do it kind of thing. I have no idea how long they take. I feel like it could be anywhere from like to getting it perfect from being like 30 minutes to like an hour or 2 hours or something, just like looking at it. Or like if I can't draw something properly and then I'll come back to it, they really don't take long at all, which is why I like have 2 volumes of them, because they're really easy to do. Anyway, yes, everyone else, please.
I'll go next. So I don't remember exactly how long it took me to like complete I Don't Want Moths, but I remember it was like summer 2019, and I was like working on my script for my graphic novel at that point, and I just nothing like writing a middle grade contemporary graphic novel script to make you want to do literally anything else. So it was like something I did like for fun. And I think maybe SPX was coming up, and I was like, I have to have something new for SPX. But I would say a book that long probably took me maybe 3 weeks or a month to do.
Yeah, same for me. I like, okay, the emotional struggle part of it took like maybe 8 months. They're like, oh,
Yeah, that part doesn't count. That part does not count.
whoa, and the feelings took a really, really long time. But like, cause I'm either working like a minimum wage part-time job or full-time freelance to pay the bills. So I have to literally be like, okay, this is how much, like, this is how long I can afford to take on something. So for ley lines, it was 24 pages, and I was like, I gotta get this done as fast as possible. Because like indie comics, like they're wonderful, wonderful people, and everyone's just out there doing their best, but it's not like paying your rent in Toronto money. Living in capitalism. So I was like, okay, this has to go fast. And the fastest I could go was a month. And I think you can kind of tell there's some drawings in there that I'm just like,
But the rushedness of those drawings, I think, adds a lot to the emotional integrity of the work that you're producing, and the free forming that the scout feels, and the instability of the nature of the subject matter that the scout is going through. It's like he's full of all of these changing emotions, and I feel like the wavering ley lines, so to speak, really lends to it. At least that's how I felt. So maybe the time constraints is a beneficial thing, and same with Keelan's work. Like I can't, like the quickness of some of those drawings, it speaks levels more than a really contrived piece of work does. But Christine, I sort of interrupted you there.
It's okay. So for my comics, the 4-panel ALT ones I do in a couple hours. So I just sit down maybe 3-4 hours if I'm watching something in the background and doing it. For Father though, this was a little bit unusual because I did this as part of a comics mentorship with someone. So I would have like bi-weekly meetings with them to talk about steps and bits by bits of it. So I don't know the actual like technical time that it took me to do this because I'm doing my full-time job, and then every week I would do like 1 hour on it or something like that. The total mentorship was over 2 months, but I definitely was not working on this every moment of the 2 months. So for me, it was a much more drawn out process of it. But yeah, the ALT ones are just 3-4 hours. Think of the idea and pump it out.
Yeah, I will say also with like, I feel the reason like that mine goes so quick also is that I don't like paneling. And so that's why everything's like one panel. And I feel paneling really takes like a lot out of you. You know?
It's a math. It can be a lot. It can be really tricky.
It's definitely time consuming and a lot to think about.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely adds when I do stuff that actually has like proper paneling, it does take way longer.
I might as well just read this from ZK Art. I hope I pronounced that correctly. ZK Art, maybe ZK Art. I relate very hard to the funny draw time now method. Dramatic works take so much longer. Props to both methods, though. All comics are fantastic.
Thank you, ZK.
Do any of you guys have anything else to say? I'd love for you to plug your Instagrams or website or what haves you.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share my screen again real quickly. We're gonna do a little plug. So if you enjoyed this reading, which I know you did, I'm sure you're gonna want to know where you can find more of our information. So let me just share my screen again real quick. So if you liked what you saw, which you did, you can find Hello Boyfriend. Like us collectively, we have a Hello Boyfriend account. We have a website, which is helloboyfriend.ca, and you can find there all of the comics that we read today and other works that we've done. So you can get digital copies if you want over there. We are also on social media, on Twitter and Instagram as Hello Boyfriend, and that username is hello underscore BOYF, boyf. So at hello underscore BOYF. That's us on Instagram and Twitter, mostly
Everyone
on Twitter.
screen cap this image. Screen cap the images for easy remembering.
Yeah, so this is Hello Boyfriend collectively. The logo on the right is our very, very cute like butt chicken bird that represents all of us together. I think it really represents how we're all very cute and love mysterious bean birds and have great butts and hair. And I've changed the slide. So now here is the social media information for each of us individually. So I'm going to start and read mine out loud. So for Christine Wong, I did the ALT comics, the funny teacher comics, and Father Father. My website is onecrispy.com. That's ONECHRISPY.com, onecrispy.com. And I am on Twitter and Instagram with the handle at onecrispy, so same as the website, ONECHRISPY. I'm more active on Twitter than Instagram.
I'm Jade. I'm Jade Armstrong. My comic was I Don't Want Moths. My website is jelajade.com. That is spelled JELAJADE.com. My handle is at jelajade, spelled the same way as the website. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter, and recently tumblr.com, because I did in fact accidentally delete my Tumblr, and I've started fresh, everyone. Jelajade is on Tumblr and new. I have 3 whole followers. It's gonna be really fun. I got a queue lined up. Well, great art. So you can catch me on any of those social medias.
Do I go? Victor? No, Victor.
Sorry, the mute button was behind my screen, so I couldn't press it, but we're here now. I'm Victor Martins. I read Cabra Cabra, the goat comic. My website is vicomart.com. That's VICOMART.com. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at CosmonautVico. Not really on social media much these days, but if you message me, I'll see it eventually. So feel free.
I'm Keelan. I read The Long Sleep and also some really funny comics. My website is keelan-g.com. Keelan is spelled Keelin. There's a dash, and then there's the letter G.com. My handle, my @ for Twitter and Instagram is at Keelan_G_. Yeah, I'm there. I tweet.
Great tweets. You have fantastic.
Very good tweets.
Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Hello Boyfriend. That was a really pleasant experience to hear all of your stories this evening.
Thanks so much for having us. We're really happy to get a chance to do something new like this.
Oh my God, I almost knocked my computer over. Oh my gosh, sorry. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. This is such
And
a
on
great
that note-
experience.
I'm glad that the computer survived. the
Oh yeah,
experience
like
and-
it wasn't the second fall of the day. I don't think it could do.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else to say? Say hello, boyfriend.
Goodbye, boyfriend.
Goodbye,
Thank you so
boyfriend.
much for
My
joining.
boyfriends.
Not yet. I want to say thank you to all the people that have come out to watch this event tonight. It's really good of you guys to take the 2.5 hours out of your life to come and listen to a couple of pals yap at each other and read our comics. Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you to everyone who also asked some questions.
Oh, thank you to all the
Great-
question askers.
Great questions and comments tonight.
Yeah. So that
Thank
was
you,
really
Jordan.
fun. Yes.
Thanks, Jordan.
Of course. Thanks, Jordan.
No
for the
problem,
Canada
guys.
Comics Open
Super
Library. Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is I'm pretty sure this is the last Read Out Loud event for this year, and it couldn't have ended on a better note. So I like I keep saying, I appreciate all of you for participating in this and for being so enthusiastic and sharing such beautiful comic stories with us all. Hopefully until next year, we'll see you guys next year, hopefully. And if not, we'll see everyone online and in hopefully physical realms in the near future. Who knows if conventions will come back in 2021. What do you guys think? 2021 conventions,
Ooh, I
yay
hope
or
not.
nay?
Nay.
Hey.
But next
Yeah.
year, perhaps we can all we can all read from our graphic novels that would have just been published.
That's
Yes.
right.
Nice.
Yep, all
All
of
at
us.
VanCaf.
And Christine, who will get a deal at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Publishers call me. I'm really good.
Yeah, all the editors in the audience tonight, hit up Christine Wong.
Oh boy. Well, from all of us and the supersized mug, we bid you farewell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, boyfriends.
Please end the call while I still am waiting.
Bye, boyfriend.